I am Dr. Marita P. This is,
Hi, YouTube. My name is Dr. Kristen Ray.
and we are Nursing Dynamics. And today we're actually going to talk about 10 tips to survive your first year of nursing school. And I'm going to go first, and we're going to alternate back and forth. This list is not all inclusive. So if you want to know what it's going to take, some of the things it's going to take for you to be successful and survive your first year of nursing school, these are the tips for you. So the first one that I have for you is to know your why. And know your why simply means that you are someone who knows why you want to come to nursing in the first place. If money is your motivating factor, this is not the program career choice for you. If you know you want to help people, if you know that you are ready to be in the trenches, if you know that you are someone who really values human life, values your education, values what you need to do to take care of your patients, then this may be the profession for you. If you do not know your why, I've personally had students who did not know their why, and knowing your why is intrinsic motivation for you to push through when times get hard in nursing school. So again, know your why. If it's money, if it's the luxury lifestyle that some nurses portray, if it's things like that, just because you want a job. If you want the job and you have no compassion, you don't care, this is not the career choice for you. So know your why.
Excellent. So second reason is, the second tip that I have is to read your syllabus. Each course should come with a syllabus. Be sure to read through the syllabus thoroughly. Note your exam dates, your assignment dates, and put them on a calendar to get yourself organized so that you can prepare for what is forthcoming. That it may sound simple to some, but a lot of people don't read the syllabus. And understand also when you're reading the syllabus, understand the grading criteria for the various rubrics, so that when you sit down to do any assignments, you have a clear understanding of what is required in order to attain a certain grade. In addition, when you do this ahead of time and you have questions, you have plenty of opportunity to reach out to your instructors to ask clarifying questions. So again, so you can move forward with a plan and prepare yourself for what is coming up next.
Okay, number 3 is you must remain disciplined when you have lost motivation. Why is that important? Because by the end of week 1 of nursing school, you have lost all motivation. And for some people anyway, for most people. This is no different than when you're on a diet, when you are budgeting, when you're exercising. You always know that we're so motivated to do something when we first get going with it. But then when it starts getting hard, when it starts getting, mundane, monotonous, tiring, we typically lose our motivation at that point in time. So you have to remain disciplined. You have to push through. This takes me back to number 1 of knowing your why, because knowing your why will help you get through those tough times when you have lost motivation and you understand you have to remain disciplined. You may find at the end of your semester or even midterm that you have lost motivation and then you need that break when you have, say, fall break, spring break, summer break, whatever happens to be, to kind of regain and get back into the mindset of, I want to complete this program. So think about your end destination, your end goal of graduation. That's when you can kind of even set up some people set up like a countdown. Some people set up a vision board in terms of they see that cap and gown or whatever it happens to be that says LPN or RN or whatever happens to be. But you want to make sure that you remain disciplined even when you've lost motivation. And this will happen throughout the semester, every single semester. By the time you get to the end of your semester, quarter, whatever your system is on, your program is on, you will find that I am completely done. I'm over this. In your head, you will likely say, I'm going to quit this program. I had quit my DNP mentally like every day, quit it every single day mentally. But then I had to push through. What is my why? What am I doing? So that's number 3. Definitely remain disciplined. when you have lost motivation.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. P.
Mhm.
So next up, we have get your support systems in place. So we can piggyback that off of the first thing I said, which was reading your syllabus and noting the deadlines. So when you note your deadlines and you understand what things are forthcoming, get your support systems in place. So if you are someone who maybe you have children, maybe you have family member or loved ones you're taking care of, maybe you're working, and you have to make arrangements in order to free up your time, maybe to study, maybe to attend class, clinical, whatever that looks like for you. Now that you have the syllabus, you have your deadlines, even before you enroll in nursing school. If you have particular, I keep going back to the example of small children because they require supervision or a loved one or whatever, make sure you have the people in place who can substitute for you when you're not available. So oftentimes I see people with small children and they miss their clinicals and things like that, end up repeating the courses because maybe they didn't have a babysitter or their babysitter flaked on them. Always have two babysitters. And I say that from experience. So always have, your plan A and a backup just in case. Also, in terms of your employer, making sure that you work somewhere that has that type of flexibility. Some people don't like to inform their employer that they're going to school for something, and that's okay. But just making sure that you work in an environment that allows some level of flexibility, because from semester to semester, depending on your nursing school program, your schedule may look different. So also keep that in mind. Sometimes clinicals are not always on the same days of the week. Sometimes clinicals can go long in terms of sometimes they're 12 hours. Some semesters you may have more than one class on a particular day. It just really depends on that program. That's something you might want to also investigate before you even apply to the program so that you know if this is realistic for you and your lifestyle. So plan ahead and get your support systems in place. You will need it. If you are a single person, or maybe you don't have anyone that you're taking care of, you don't work, whatever, then you won't necessarily need those types of things, but you'll need to organize your life in ways such as maybe deciding, which days you're going to go to the grocery store, things like that that people don't think of, that if you just kind of plan ahead and organize yourself, you can avoid not only some of the pitfalls, but you can also just make your life run a lot more smoother when you take the time to plan things out. And I also encourage you to get a calendar. You can get a paper one, or most people are always on their phone. Put all those due dates and things on your calendar with an alert. Set an alert maybe a week or two before something's due, so that in case perhaps you forgot it was coming, you have a week or two to kind of prepare yourself and get things in order. Because rushing, trying to do things last minute, you'll find yourself frustrated. Nursing school is hard enough. So you want to set yourself up for success in the very beginning. And part of that is planning ahead.
Okay, I actually want to piggyback off of that before I go on to number 5. So when you're talking about having sitters and things like that, make sure that you understand too when it comes to childcare, like daycare centers, or even if you have a school-age child, know your inclement weather policy. Meaning that if you, like, I live in the South, and people up north, when we have snow and things like that, or down here we have tornado storms, all kinds of things go on, our schools will close. And if you are in clinical, what are you going to do? So have an inclement weather plan. So when things close or school start 2 hours late or get out 2 hours early and you're in clinical, what are you going to do with that? Also have a plan for a sick child. When the school calls you and says your child is sick, come pick them up. And they don't play about that. Come pick them up. COVID is a different situation because you all know what we've been through with COVID, and a lot of instructors may be more lenient when it comes to COVID. If we're not really tracking like we used to, but that is what it is. But keep those things in mind as well. All right, I'm going to go on to number 5. So if you are already in healthcare, meaning like you're already a CNA, you're already an LPN, and you're in nursing school, the one thing I want you to do is to mentally say, I'm not going to apply anything that I do in the real world to nursing school. Meaning that when you come to class, when you're taking tests, when you're doing all kinds of things, do not assume or think that your CNA life world, your LPN world applies to the nursing world, nursing school world. The nursing school world is based off of what you're going to need to know for NCLEX. NCLEX is based off of this ideal, perfect world that we do not live in. And so therefore, a lot of things that you do in your jobs as a CNA or LPN or things that you see on the floor already, if you're doing a 2-year RN and you already a 2-year RN and go back for your BSN, then you're going to see or know things. You're going to say, okay, well, yeah, when I answer this question on the test at my job, we do da 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 da. I guarantee you the answer is going to be wrong. 9 times out of 10, I can't guarantee it, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to be wrong. So just be mindful of that. Do not. It's kind of like have a clean slate. Like mentally say, I know I'm already a CNA, I'm already an LPN, and I work in the real world. The real world will not help you in the NCLEX driven world.
Excellent, excellent. So next I want to go on to discuss creating a study plan. So this kind of ties into being organized and getting your support in place. Like this is all, we're talking about organization. So when you create a study plan, once you get your syllabus and you've plugged in your calendar, you know your due dates and everything, there's going to be an abundance of information you need to study. Create a plan on how you will execute that. Perhaps on a certain day, you'll read chapters 1 through 3. A next day, maybe you'll read chapters 3 through 6. And, maybe the day after that, you will go back and review just the highlights of chapters 1 through 6. Something along those lines, so that you're not cramming for your exams and things of that nature. And within the study plan should also include a plan for your assignments. So oftentimes nursing schools will assign lengthy papers, group projects and such. Make sure that, if you see the paper is due on the 10th, it's not the 8th and you're just starting to start writing. You can do it in piecemeal. Again, look at the assignment rubric and maybe break it down and say, on Monday, I'll do the first section of this. Tuesday, I'll do the second section after I'm done reading chapter 3 or something along those lines, something that you feel is manageable for you. For me, when I was in nursing school, when it came to papers, because I did not enjoy writing them, the sooner I started, the better it was for me, because I didn't feel so miserable all at once, I guess. That's kind of the way I saw it. I could just do piece by piece. And then by the time it was time for me to do my final drafts and things and turn it in, it didn't seem like so much all at once on top of all of the studying that you're going to have to do. So create the study plan, put that on your calendar as well, and make sure that you have your support systems in place if needed, so that you have that time to study. In nursing schools, there will be a lot of studying, probably more studying, particularly if this is your first career. It's likely the most studying you've ever done. So keeping that in mind, it's going to be a lot of hours per day that are going to be needed. And also in your study plan, take breaks. Also make sure you put in breaks. Maybe you're going to have lunch, dinner. Maybe after chapter 6, you'll go out with, and watch a movie or something. So also include your breaks in there, but be realistic with yourself as well, because there is a lot to get done. But at the same time, you do need some balance. And that also kind of helps with your mental health as you go through nursing school. So create the study plan, stick to it as much as possible, execute it. And if you find that it's not working for you, make adjustments as necessary. But at the very least, give yourself an outline of what you need to do and by what date.
Okay, that's great. Number 7, you need to not be afraid to ask for help. I happen to sit on the grievance committee when students were not successful in the classes, have failed, and they want to grieve. So file a grievance so that they can come back to the class or come back in the program or whatever it may be. And they will have a laundry list of things that the instructor did not do or whatever happens to be. And the number one question we ask in that situation is, did you ask for help? And they say, no, the instructor was intimidating. The instructor was this, the instructor was that. And the one thing I want you to understand is you're paying for an education and they already have their degree. So they may not be invested in you if you're not invested in yourself. So you asking for help is an investment in yourself to say, you know what, I want to return on my investment by getting my education. So therefore, I'm going to ask for help. Ask for help may mean that you simply raise your hand in class and say, you know what, I don't understand that concept. Do you mind explaining it again? It could be that you may not, you don't want the attention of asking for help in class. So you may go up to the instructor after class or before class or during a break and say, I don't really understand this. And they may say, okay, come by my office or schedule an appointment with me during office hours. So utilize and know your instructor's office hours and use them. That's oftentimes where you can get a one-on-one with your instructor and they can break things down with you. In addition to that, depending on the course and your instructor, they offer what's called remediation. Remediation is when you take the time, or they take the time to review certain concepts that you got wrong on the test. Depending on the institution, you may or may not be able to actually see what you got wrong, but they can tell you the concepts that you missed. That depends on the institution and the instructor. In addition to that, you may want to go ahead and get a support group that you come up with, that you and your like-minded study partners get together and say, okay, you know what, let's get together and study for this material. And I remember when I was in nursing school, I was a single parent, and us single moms got together. And what we would do was every week we would rotate houses. So you're like, okay, who's gonna keep the kids? Because I can't come over to study. Not a problem. What we did was we had a single mom study group, and we all would bring our kids to whoever's house it was to host. So, and then that mom would prepare a dinner, something like spaghetti, something that is heavy, cheap, and we would feed the kids. We would put them in a plate area, and then we would study for a couple of hours together. It became so popular that people who are not single moms, so people whose children were grown, or people who didn't even have kids, they wanted to join us, and they would, they understood the rotation. Okay, listen, if we come into your house, we're bringing all these kids with us, and they actually enjoyed it. It was, and then that way, it not only facilitated a bond between us students, but it also helped remedy the situation of not having childcare, and also trying to get together with like-minded people, similar or situational type people. We're all single parents. We didn't have resources where people could say, okay, who gonna keep the kids? And we needed each other. And this is a time before Zoom. We didn't Zoom back then. So we were in person. So we rotated houses, and that was a hit. And it got to the point where people were putting money into the funds and said, okay, who's doing it this week? It was a party. Anytime you could, what was a party? Take that back. Anytime you could bring food and people together and studying, it made for a great night. And guess what? Our group always did very well on the exams. So, and then people heard about us and said, okay, well, I want to get in this group. What do I need to do? I might have some money and bring some food and be able to host one week. And by the time you looked around, it was about 12 of us in a group where we didn't have to repeat houses. So it wasn't always on the same person. So once you did your time, we set up a schedule and like, okay, who's paying, who's hosting today or this week. It was wonderful. And that's what helped get us through the whole program, was having those groups like that. And because we all had got together and did these things, we all kind of was like, okay, you know what, we're going to do this through the rest of the program. And that's how we survived nursing school in its entirety. One more thing that I want to add to this is, when you find yourself that you are really struggling and you're needing help, get yourself a tutor. It is nothing wrong with having help where someone who is an expert in that subject matter can help you understand. Sometimes you have situations where your instructor explains it a certain way, and for whatever reason, they're not conveying it in a way that you understand, but a tutor would. Also, see about getting yourself a mentor. A mentor is someone who's going to not per se tutor you, but they're going to kind of guide you through the nursing school journey process and even into your career. Get you several tutors. You need tutors for different, not tutors, sorry, get you several mentors. You'll need mentors for different things, different reasons, in different times of your life. I currently have about 3 mentors who mentor on 3 different situations or 3 different components of my life. One being career, professional, one being financial, one being just life in general. So get you someone who you look up to, who seems to be sound in what they do, that they have demonstrated in terms of nursing, that they demonstrate nursing excellence, and that they are someone you look up to say, okay, you know what, I want to be like you when I finish this journey of nursing school.
Excellent, excellent. And piggybacking off what Dr. Pace said, with the single moms group, that's an excellent support system. So, so additional support systems may come around while you're in nursing school, but definitely do some upfront work because you don't want to rely on that before you spend your time, money, and effort entering the program. Next, I want to talk about doing NCLEX style questions. The point of going to nursing school is to pass the NCLEX. That's the end goal, should I say. And I often get students tell me that they didn't think they should do NCLEX questions yet because they're not studying for the test. Well, for those of you that may not know, the NCLEX style questions are the vast majority, if not all, of the questions you're going to get throughout your nursing school journey. So it's not too early to start doing those, to understand how to critically think and to think through some of those scenarios, because it's a certain way you have to think to get through nursing school. It's not as simple as some of your prerequisite courses where 1 + 1 is 2. In nursing school, it's not that easy. It's not. They are knowledge-based application questions. So the thought process behind them are a lot different. So the sooner you can start understanding how to think in that manner, and that plus the knowledge that you will obtain throughout the program, so that then you can formulate answers to the style of questioning, because these types of questions you only find in nursing school. So start early and practice NCLEX questions often. I've taught undergrad and grad nursing students, and I usually advise that they do a minimum of 300 questions a week. That's my suggestion. Some people may say less, some people may say more, but the more you practice these questions, the better you're going to get at answering them. They'll reinforce the knowledge that you've learned. They will introduce you to some knowledge that maybe you didn't have, and it will help you get better with answering those styles of questions. And when you do the NCLEX questions, always read the rationale, even if you got the question correct. That will, again, help to reinforce your learning. And even if it's something that you knew, oftentimes the rationale will explain it in depth and kind of help you to understand why this is the correct answer. And certainly if you didn't get it correct, the rationale will help you to explain why. And then you can look at the other questions that were the incorrect answer and see why those were not correct. So that when you're presented with a similar type question again, which if you do enough questions, after a while, in my opinion, they all start to look alike. Once you do enough of those questions, I know I've done thousands over my career. It's almost like you'll see it again at some point, and you can draw on that knowledge.
I want to piggyback off of this and just kind of add a few more things to this. So when you're doing those NCLEX style questions, people often ask, well, when do I start that process? Start that week 1 of nursing school, or after you have started doing your first set of content, say for fundamentals or whatever your first course happens to be. You want to start that process immediately. Unfortunately, so many students wait till, okay, I graduated today, I'm about to start studying for NCLEX. You're a little late to the game on that one. You need to start doing those questions immediately once you begin your program. So once the instructor says, okay, we're going to talk about the nursing process, and they go through the nursing process, and then you start getting into systems or how whatever you're talking about. That's when you go ahead and start doing those NCLEX style questions on that subject matter. So when you move on into med-surg, if you're talking about COP or med-surg type content, do med-surg, do questions on the content in which you are actually currently talking about in your class. People often ask, another question is, well, what book do I buy? It's funny you should ask. By the time you finish nursing school, you would have went through several books. So by the time you finish nursing school, you should have answered at least 3,000 questions. If you have not answered 3,000 questions and you're not getting about 95% of those questions correct, you are not ready for the NCLEX. Now, this video is not about taking the NCLEX, but I just want to go, since we're talking about doing those questions, by the end of your program, you should have done at least 3,000 questions. That means you would have went through several books, several different NCLEX books. So Saunders, you would have went through, Lippincott, all kinds of books are out there. And put in a plug, if you want to know what books we recommend, we have, if you look at our banner, we have the Amazon storefront, our Amazon storefront icon. If you go there and you go to Nursing Essentials, you will see different books for nursing school and other things for nursing school that we recommend that you try, that we have vetted and know that they work. However, if you choose not to do that, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to know what we recommend, go to that storefront and you will see the things that we recommend, and go ahead and purchase through there. We do get a slight commission from that. However, if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. But people often ask, us, what books do you recommend? So that's something that I wanted to mention. 3,000 questions, doesn't matter the book, just get through the questions and start very early when you start that process. So by the time you get to you're taking your NCLEX, you're not focused on, oh my gosh, I got to study for the next 2 months. You've been studying the entire program, and that's what it's made to do, where you study and prepare the entire program. Don't dump either. So don't learn it and then dump it for the next one, because everything builds upon the next thing. So if you, whatever you do in fundamentals is going to help you in health assessment, and help doing health assessment is going to help you in, med surg 1 and so forth. So be mindful of that. All right, I'm going to go to number 9, and number 9 is, you need to make sure before you even come to nursing school, this should have been probably earlier, you should know this already, but make sure you have a strong foundation, and I mean a strong one, in anatomy and physiology 1 and 2. You have a strong foundation in in pathophysiology. Now, the caveat to that is, I think LPN programs, I'm not sure, I don't know if they have that, but I know 2-year programs, all of them don't have patho. So you may not have to take patho, but A&P is pretty essential for most programs, and of course microbiology for your 4-year programs. So if you're not required to take patho because of your program curriculum, or micro because of, again, your program, usually LPN students aren't take those classes. But make sure you have a strong foundation in your anatomy and physiology at the minimum, because that is a foundation course to nursing school. And in nursing school, we don't go back. We're both actually educators, so we don't go back and reteach A&P. And the biggest deficit that we see collectively is that because students are not successful in nursing schools, because they never had a foundation in those essential classes that I just named, A&P 1 and 2 as your priority classes. And I know you can't control when you take these classes per se, but I will say the closer you take them to nursing school, the better off you're going to be. A lot of institutions will say that, there is no time limit in which you can take the classes, or that we count the classes. Some schools say it has to be within the past 5 years. Otherwise, you have to repeat the course. And the reason being is because they understand and know that you're not going to be successful if you took A&P 10 years ago. You're not going to be successful. You're going to have to reteach yourself. So a lot of schools will have you redo that class, because it needs to be as current as possible. So I always say, try to take your A&P classes closer to you starting nursing school, depending on how your curriculum is designed.
Excellent. And just to piggyback off of that, in terms of the patho, one of the things I did to prepare myself for nursing school, I actually took patho. Well, I took it in nursing school, but before nursing school, when I was taking my prerequisites, I went to a community college and I took it as an elective. So even if it's not built into your program, you as an individual can make the decision to say, hey, I know this is really important. Let me brush up on this before I head into nursing school. So my patho class, it was on a Friday evening at that. So it was definitely not sexy, but I got an introduction into pathophysiology. So when I got to pathophysiology formally in nursing school, I was familiar. I hadn't mastered it, but I was very familiar. So it didn't seem, it wasn't, the concepts weren't new. So when I sat down to study, I already had a leg up. So, and that helped me to get an A in my pathophysiology class in nursing school, because I had already taken the initiative to educate myself prior to. No one told me to do it. There was no, it wasn't built into a curriculum. I knew that in nursing school, it was going to be pivotal for me to have a strong understanding of anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology. And I took the initiative to take that as one of my electives, opposed to, I don't know, pottery or swimming or something like that. So that's my story. So I hope this helps someone and encourage you to a degree, to take your education into your own hands, And this will also help to lighten the burden of nursing school as well, because I didn't have to spend much time studying for patho. So I instead focused my time on pharmacology, which almost killed me. But I was able to, of course, I still studied for patho, but it didn't require as much attention as it did for some of my other nursing school, as some of the other students that with pharmacology, I know it took a few years off of a few people's lives. So that's my plug for that.
Before you go on number 10, I want to say something else about that.
Okay.
For the ones of you who, okay, well, I took A&P 5 years ago, or for the ones of you who I took it, didn't have a good educator, it didn't stick, what now? Got something for you. Go to that same banner, Amazon storefront, Nursing Essentials, which you'll find, and you will find some things in there for anatomy and physiology specifically that we have picked to say, okay, you know what? These make some good things to be refreshers. So they have what's called A&P anatomy and physiology coloring books. So if you have the creative mind where you like to color and doodle and whatever, they have a coloring book for A&P. So if you're creative like that and you want to do something that's kind of passive where you're learning but you're coloring at the same time, they have A&P coloring books. They have flashcards. They have the cheat sheets, the A&P like cheat sheets. They have the A&P workbooks, review books. Take the time to go ahead and do that if you are struggling, because again, most programs, I can't speak for all because I don't know about every program, but most programs do not, and I repeat, do not go back and teach the material. If you don't have it, you just don't have it and you're gonna fail the class, and they keep it moving. So go to our banner again, Amazon storefront, you will see that. Nursing Essentials is where you'll find it, and just kind of look through and see what you find and see what may be beneficial to you. Again, coloring books, flashcards, um, workbooks, all kinds of things and cheat sheets that will be helpful for you to relearn, shall I say, on your own, your A&P. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Excellent. That was a great point. And those materials have been vetted by us. We took the time to sit down and really look over everything to make sure that the content within would be helpful for students. Last but certainly not least is sacrifice. Nursing school will require some level of sacrifice. That's going to look different for everyone, of course. But one thing that I look at when I have to sacrifice something, a short-term sacrifice should be worth your long-term benefit. So when I say sacrifice, I mean things like how I took pathophysiology as an elective on a Friday night. And I was, I don't know, 19, 20-ish. I was around that age, 19 or 20, maybe 21, something. I was young. So, you know, Friday night up until like 8, 9 o'clock, I'm sitting in an elective pathophysiology class. Everyone else is at happy hour. But that was a sacrifice I was willing to make in order to have the long-term benefit and to be able to be where I am today. In nursing school, you will have a lot of things that you're going to have to pass on, put on the back burner in order to get through the program successfully. So I want you to know that going in, that it's going to take dedication, it's going to take sacrifice. And just like Dr. Pace said, you're going to need discipline when you have decreased motivation. So an example of that may be maybe you didn't do as well as you would have liked to have done on a test. That can be very demotivating, but you have to be disciplined enough and understand that you're going to have to make the sacrifices to study for the next one. And that's just the fact of the matter. And really, when you're talking about any larger goal, you're going to have those similar types of situations come up. So maybe this or maybe something else you choose to do, but just understand that everything has a cost. There's price and there's cost. The price is the price. It's the dollar sign. Maybe it was $10. The cost of that thing may be your time and attention. So nursing school price, depending on your program, I don't know, maybe it's $20K. The cost is going to be a few years of your life where you have to buckle down. You're going to have to sacrifice some of the things that you otherwise would have been doing. That could be time with family, time with friends, Friday happy hours, whatever that looks like for you. So that will be the cost of your nursing education. And I hope these tips helped.
All right, so we have now concluded with our top 10. Again, these are not all inclusive, tips that will help you survive your first year of nursing school. And we hope you have found these beneficial. Again, go to the Amazon storefront if you want other resources that we have vetted to say these are good resources to help you in your nursing school journey. In addition to that, follow us on our other platforms, social media platforms. So on TikTok, we are at Nursing Dynamics. On Instagram, we are at Nursing Dynamics. So the exact same, and we'll put that in the description box below. We want you to also subscribe to this channel. We will have more content coming. Definitely share these videos to push our narrative, to push it out there. We are two doctorally prepared nurses who are here to educate and inspire through the BIPOC lens. So we know the issues, the trends and issues that goes on not only for minority nurses, but also in healthcare and education, because we're both educators, in addition to what the nursing world looks like in real life. And so we want to bring that to this channel. And so, like I said, thank you for joining us today. And until the next time, you all take care.
Thank you.